Hey guys, it's Amy here, and today I'm going to be doing my March wrap-up. It's that time of the month again, and this month I have 14 books to talk to you about, so I'm going to do it as quickly as possible, and as with the last video, I'm going to be going from my lowest star rating to my highest star rating. So to start off, we have my first 1-star rating of the year, which is Let's Explore Diabetes with Owls by David Sedaris. If you saw my review on my blog or on Goodreads, you'll know I really didn't enjoy this book. This is basically a memoir, anecdotal type book. David Sedaris is kind of picking stories from his childhood and various events in his life and discussing them and making jokes, and I just found the jokes were in really poor taste. I thought they were really crude and quite vile at some point. I don't really have a lot to say about this one. I know I won't be recommending it to anyone I know because I don't know anyone that would find this kind of comedy funny at all, so this one is definitely going to be heading to the charity shop pretty soon. Moving on to my 3-star reviews, and we firstly have Assassin's Quest by Hobb. This is the third and final book in the Farseer trilogy. I thought this book was okay. I gave it 3 stars. As with the second book in the trilogy, it dragged on a hell of a lot. I think it could have been about 200 pages shorter than it was. There was a whole section in the middle that just kept going on, and they were travelling, and it just kept going on, and I just wasn't really enjoying it that much. The beginning and the end, again with the second book, it was similar, were really good, and I thought that the ending was really great. If you haven't read any of the books in this series, they basically follow the story of a young man named Fitz, who is a bastard-born son of one of the royalty in the area known as the Six Duchies. It's a high fantasy trilogy, and Hobb does have a fantastic way of building worlds, so I know I will be continuing on with the next trilogy, which is the Live Ship Traders, I think, so I will be reading that one soon. My next 3-star review goes to The Winner's Kiss by Rutkoski. This I got on NetGalley as a advanced reader copy. This is the third and final book in the Winners trilogy. I'm assuming that's what it's called. I read these books as they came out, so the last one was like a year ago, and unfortunately with this one I just felt like I just wasn't invested in the character story anymore. I just didn't care enough about them anymore, and so that was a shame. It basically follows the story of a young guy and a girl who are on opposing sides of kind of warring people. It's a YA kind of historical fantasy type thing, and I think maybe just because I'm not really enjoying YA so much at the moment that is the reason why I gave this one 3 stars and nothing higher. I would highly recommend that you read it as a conclusion to the story though if you have read the other 2 in the trilogy. The 3-star review goes to Girl Interrupted by Susanna Kaysen. This is a non-fiction book and it follows the story of Susanna Kaysen as she is admitted into an insane asylum in the 1960s. She lives there for 2 years when she's 18. I thought this was really good. I just expected a little bit more from it. It was a very short read. I read it in a couple of sittings. Mixed in with the story are these scanned in pages of case notes, so what the doctors and nurses are saying about her, and she kind of discusses over those things. It's a really interesting look at how mental health issues were kind of diagnosed at the time and how the different women in the ward with her were treated. It was very interesting. I just wanted more information and I didn't get that, so that's why I gave this one 3 stars. I would still recommend it though if you have any interest in psychology or anything like that. Next I have another 3-star review, which was I Call Myself a Feminist, the view from 25 women under 30. This was the Feminist Orchestra book for March, which Jean runs over at Bookish Thoughts. I'll leave the link to everything down below if you want to go and join. This is essentially what it says on the cover, 25 snippets from different women who call themselves a feminist and why they do that. The reason why I didn't give this one anything over 3 stars was because I think it was a really good introduction, and I think it would be fantastic for anyone who has any interest in feminism and doesn't really know where to start. I found it a little bit repetitive, which is completely understandable with a book of 25 women who are all talking about the same topic. Obviously they're going to cross over on some of their views and things. The ones that I found most interesting in this book were from women who are of a different nationality to me, so they were talking about things that I wasn't so aware of before picking up this book, and it made me want to go and research into what they were speaking about. Although I gave it 3 stars, I still thought it was a fantastic read, and I know I will recommend it to a lot of my friends, so I would highly recommend if you have any interest in feminism that you should pick this one up. And my final 3-star book of the month was Spike, the complete series by Brian Lynch. This is basically a complete comic series following Spike from Buffy the Vampire Slayer. If you've been on my channel for a while, you'll know that I'm a massive fan of Buffy the Vampire Slayer, so this, to me, is perfection. Really nice dip into kind of the nostalgia of Buffy the Vampire Slayer. The story completely concludes itself, so you can read this as an entire thing by itself. Basically picks off where Angel, the TV series, finishes, and it does have a few characters kind of from Buffy the Vampire Slayer and Angel mixed in there as well, so it was just a really enjoyable read. It wasn't anything amazing, it was quite surface level with the story because it obviously had to be wrapped up by the end of the book, but I would highly recommend to anyone who enjoys a bit of Spike or Buffy the Vampire Slayer. Willow, she makes an appearance, so that's just all groovy. Moving on to the 4-star books, the first 2 I have here were actually sent to me by the publisher, and the first one I have is Lost Property by Andy Poyiadgi. Poyiadgi. I probably said that wrong. This was sent to me by Nobrow, and it is a tiny little pamphlet of a book. As you can see, it didn't take me very long to read at all. One thing I have to say for Nobrow's publishing is that everything is done so beautifully. It even has little French flaps here, and the paper just feels so like wonderfully kind of, it's a really good quality of paper. It follows the story of a postman who loses something, and when he goes to the lost property shop he discovers some interesting things there. I'll leave it at that because otherwise I'll spoil it for you. The second one that Nobrow sent me was Einstein by Corinne Mayer and Anne Simon. This is essentially a graphic novel depiction of Einstein's life. It's done in kind of comic book form, as you can see there. The colours are really beautiful. I really enjoyed that, and actually I found it really interesting because I don't think I really knew much about Einstein at all. Like, obviously we got taught in school in science and things about what he actually discovered and what he did in his life, but nothing about his life other than that. Like, I didn't know like where he came from and his wives and things like that, so I found this to be a very interesting little read. Next for my 4-star reads we have another graphic novel, which was Rat Queens Volume 2, and I really enjoyed this one. Like, I've heard a lot of negative things about this book, people saying that it's not so good, but I thought it was really, really great. Like, I really enjoyed the story. In this book you learn a lot more about the characters, like you kind of go into their past a bit and see kind of how they came to be where they are, and I just really thought it was great. If you don't know what Rat Queens is about, it essentially follows this group of women on the front here who are known as the Rat Queens, who go out and kind of fight evil, and they're just really badass. Like, I just think they're such cool characters and I just love their story, so I'm really looking forward to reading Volume 3 whenever that comes out. This book I have here was also sent to me by the publisher for review, and that was Eleanor by Jason Gurley. Really didn't know what to expect with this one, but I was so pleasantly surprised that I've actually picked up another Jason Gurley book recently, which you'll see in a haul at some point soon. This one basically follows the story of 3 generations of women. We start at the beginning with the grandmother, and then we move to her child, and then eventually we end up with that woman's child, which is Eleanor. I really have no idea how to explain this one other than it is very magical realism. We kind of dip in and out of dreams. Eleanor is going from reality to the dreams of her family members, and she is trying to work out how to change this awful event that happened in her childhood to make things a lot better. I'm really poorly describing this one. I really think you should go and read a review of it or read a kind of synopsis of it, because it was such a beautiful read. I really enjoyed it, and Jason Gurley has such a fantastic way of spinning the story. Like, I was completely enraptured in the characters and just the whole world of it, really. I just wanted to dip into these dreams that Eleanor was kind of falling into accidentally and just see where it all led. It's just really wonderfully done, and I think I'll definitely be rereading it again in the future. The next 4-star book I have here is Some 40 Tales from the Afterlives by David Eagleman. I picked this one up on the recommendation of Jen Campbell, and I'm really glad I did. It was such a quaint little beautiful book. It's essentially what it says on the cover. Each of these 40 tales is a couple of pages long, and it just completely wrapped me up. I couldn't believe how quickly I kind of just went into what the story was about when it was only like a page or so long. Like, usually I'm not very good at doing that, but this book really took me away, and I was just really kind of transported to these imaginary kind of afterlives that David Eagleman was talking about. My favourite afterlives that he described was one where God essentially thought that Mary Shelley, the author of Frankenstein, was like the best woman ever, and he loved Frankenstein, so he ends up putting her on the throne of heaven and leaves her as queen so that he can just go off and read Frankenstein like on a cloud somewhere. It was just really funny, and I just, I don't know, just thought the whole book was just really enjoyable, so gave that one 4 out of 5 stars. The final 4-star book, and also my classic for the month, was Far from the Madding Crowd by Thomas Hardy. This book was so good. I finished it yesterday and I just really enjoyed it. Like, I love books set in this time period. Like, I really enjoy the characters, like the way they're written, like things like Jane Eyre, Wuthering Heights, like this, and like Pride and Prejudice and things like that. Like, the characters are so flipping hilarious. Like, I don't know whether anyone else gets the same feeling as that as me, because I spoke about finding Wuthering Heights really funny in a video where I reviewed it, and someone was like, you find it funny? That's a bit strange. Like, it's not meant to be funny. Like, I know it's not meant to be funny, but like the characters are just ridiculous. Like, they make the most ridiculous decisions. They do the most ridiculous things. Like, the whole kind of way women are portrayed is just, it's ridiculous, but it's also, I just really enjoy it. One follows the story of Bathsheba Everdeen, a woman who has kind of taken control of a farm, and she has lots of men who want to be her partner in life, and these men are all kind of fighting over her, and that is essentially what the story is. Like, her making her choice and living with her choices as to what man she wants in her life, and it's just really good. Like, I thought it was really great, and since then I've actually bought Tess of the D'Urbervilles, another sneak peek into what my book haul will be next month, and I'm just wanting to read more Thomas Hardy. I think it would be really enjoyable. I thought this one was great. On to my 5-star books for the month, and I only have 2. The first one was another book that was sent to me from No Brow, and this is a Flying Eye Books, which is The Journey by Francesca Sanna. This is a beautiful picture book. Basically follows the story of a family who are having to move from their country and their home and their friends and things that they love to another country. They're emigrating. Whilst they're travelling, they are watching a flock of birds who are having no problems with travelling. They are just flying away through, no borders or people are stopping them. They're not having to hide from anything, and it's just a really quaint story, like a really beautiful story. I hope you can see how beautiful these illustrations are. Also, the paper that it's printed on is like really matte, and it just feels like really quality, nice paper, and I just thoroughly enjoyed the whole book. Like, I'll just flip through a few more pages and you can see how wonderful the whole thing is. It just really took my breath away, and I know it's something I'll probably reread again in the future. I'm gonna pass it on to my best friend Lydia because I know that it's something she'll really enjoy because she works with children and she loves reading children's picture books, so it's something I think she will really like. Final 5-star book from March was The Martian by Andy Weir, and I really enjoyed this book. I've actually put it on my favourites on Goodreads. It's my only book that I've put on as a favourite this month. You probably know, heard, seen the film, you know what it is about. It's essentially the story of a man who gets abandoned on Mars. Astronaut friends think that he's died and they leave him there, and he ends up having to survive and work out like what's going on so that he doesn't die. I watched the film after reading the book and I didn't enjoy the film as much as I thought I would. I thought it was going to be like a really great depiction of the book, and I'm sure a lot of people would disagree with me and say that the film was fantastic, but I just didn't find it anywhere near as funny as the book. Like, I found Mark Watney, like reading what he was writing in the book, to be so laugh out loud hilarious that I was properly like giggling whilst reading the book. But in the film I just found that Matt Damon portrayed him in a really like serious way, and I just didn't find him funny. Like, I wasn't laughing at all in the film, and I think that kind of took away my enjoyment of it. Two things I want to mention that I really enjoyed about this book. One, Mark Watney was having to read a lot of Agatha Christie because that was what one of his astronaut friends kind of left in their supply on Mars, and so he was having to read a load of Poirot, which I think is flipping hilarious. Like, I love Poirot. And the other thing was the fact that they mentioned Lord of the Rings, and they were having like the secret meeting and they called it Project Elrond. You know how much I love Lord of the Rings, and that was my favourite part of the film, the fact that they were talking about Project Elrond and laughing and saying, yeah, it's, you know, part of Lord of the Rings, that's why it's called that. And Sean Bean was there in the film. He was sat there like, yeah, you know, it's from Lord of the Rings. It's like, he plays Boromir. Oh my god, like, I was laughing. Like, he should have said something like, one does not simply dash back to Mars to pick up one's friend. That was definitely the best part of the film for me. As I said, I didn't really go much on the rest of it. In regards to the book, I would highly recommend it to everyone. It is definitely one of my favourites of the year so far. So there we go. I hope this video isn't horrifically long. I tried to go as quickly as possible. I have actually written reviews for every single book that I've mentioned in this video. I will leave links to my blog and Goodreads below if you want to go and follow me there. That would be great. Down below what you've been reading in March, or if you've read any of these books and what you thought of them. As always, I will leave links to Facebook, Tumblr, Twitter, everything I've mentioned today down below. I hope you're all having a fantastic day, and I will see you soon. Bye! Haircut, I've also accumulated some new books, so let's have a look at what I've been buying recently. So to kick off this book haul,